developing throughout the day, which has been interesting. All right, have a great show.
Connell, thanks so much. Israel under attack, the Middle East on edge, as Iran fires missiles into Tel Aviv this evening. The response after Israeli fighter jets, drones, and intelligence officers took out Iran's top military brass, targeted its nuclear facilities and scientists. Tonight, what we're learning about the United States' involvement, how the U.S. is helping in the skies as well, plus reaction to the strikes on Israel and the threat worldwide, how President Trump is warning Iran this evening, and the moment right now before the commander-in-chief. The message the president is trying to send, as Israel's leader says all of this falls in line with American policy. Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Burman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. It is 6 o'clock at the White House, a live look in Tel Aviv, 1 a.m. there, where tonight Israel is under attack after taking out top Iranian generals, nuclear scientists, and bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. Israel then fending off Iranian missiles. But not all, as there are several strikes tonight in Tel Aviv. This evening in the Middle East, the only thing that appears certain is continued escalation involving a state sponsor of terrorism with nuclear ambitions, Iran, and our strongest ally in the Middle East, Israel. Earlier today, the commander-in-chief meeting in the Situation Room with his top national security officials after he told Iran to strike a nuclear deal and warn that Israel's U.S.-backed weapons are better than theirs. We begin tonight live over at the White House with our Kelly Meyer with how the president is responding this evening. Kelly?
Well, Blake, we haven't actually seen the president today with all of this going on. He's been behind the scenes in the Situation Room with his national security team, as you mentioned, monitoring the situation in the Middle East in the West Wing. This was the only photo we saw of him today, and he was making calls to world leaders, including, we confirmed, Israel's prime minister. The president praising Bibi's strikes as excellent, despite previously warning him against them because of the impact it could have on those negotiations on a new nuclear agreement. Today, the president said it could actually help bring Iran to the table. These strikes could. The president said he knew of the attack beforehand, even saying he knew the exact date, but said the U.S. was not involved. We are learning tonight the U.S. is assisting and shooting down missiles heading towards Israel. I'm told a vast majority of missiles were intercepted by Israeli air defense. The U.S. did support both by land and sea assets. And Trump today also speaking with Arab leaders, many of whom he just met with during his trip to the Middle East. Trump speaks highly of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, all leaders he visited with recently, all of those leaders calling for de-escalation. And one Arab diplomat telling me tonight Iran's nuclear facilities are located closer to Gulf capitals than Tehran itself, and that any potential leaks from these sites could have catastrophic consequences. Blake?
Our Kelly Meyer, who we will check back with throughout the hour live at the White House tonight. Kelly, thank you. So as the world watches the events unfold in the Middle East, back here in Washington, you would think the response would be just sort of one thing, right? That's not the case tonight. Our Joe Khalil with us tonight live here in studio. Joe, the reaction's sort of, for the most part, there behind Israel, but there's still a conversation and a debate here that's starting to take shape.
In both parties, actually. And it's interesting so let's start with Republicans. There's a split between those in Congress and out. In Congress, virtually everybody is supporting Israel. Strong statements. You got things like Lindsey Graham here. We'll put it up on your screen, where all night he was praising these strikes. And then today he says, if Iran refuses to come to the table, quote, I believe it's in America's national security interest to go all in to help Israel finish the job. So there's a lot of that in the Capitol. Outside of that, when it comes to Republicans, there is a big movement within the MAGA base, as you know, Blake, that loves President Trump for being the anti-conflict, anti-war guy, right? So there are people who, like Tucker Carlson's of the world, those influential voices within MAGA, really upset about his support. People like Thomas Massey in Congress have expressed that opinion too. On the other side of the aisle, this is also splitting Democrats in some way, to an extent. Take a listen to what Senator Jack Reed said. He's important. He's the top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. This is his view here.
What does the day after look like? Is it full of terrorist attacks throughout the region and the world, missile attacks by Iran against Israel. My sense is that the United States was, not my sense, it was quite clear, was trying to persuade the Israelis to wait.
So caution there, but Blake, there are plenty of Democrats who also sound more like Lindsey Graham and say Israel's got a right to defend itself. They support the strikes too. So really you're seeing rifts a bit on both sides here.
Our Joe Khalil with us tonight. Joe, thank you. Joining me now is the Republican congressman from Georgia, Rich McCormick. He is a member of the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committee. The congressman, by the way, also a veteran, having served in the Marine Corps. Thanks for being with us tonight, sir. I appreciate your perspective on this. One of the reasons why I wanted to hear from you this evening. You've been posting and giving your thoughts on all this. Let me start with the United States' involvement in assisting Israel tonight. What do you believe sort of the line is for the U.S. to help Israel, and how far the United States should go?
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Congressman, do you hear me?
You broke up there right that last part. I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Do we have the congressman or no?
I can hear you fine now.
You hear him? I'm sorry. It's my audio, sir. So I'll tee you up with what do you think the U.S. involvement should be with Israel?
Well, first of all, realize the Tehran regime, nobody likes you. For a long time, for decades now, around the world, they've killed Americans with their weapons. They've gone against our allies. They consider Israel the little Satan, and we are the big Satan. They want to take us out. They cannot have nuclear weapons. We should do everything inside of our capabilities to assist Israel or to destroy their nuclear capabilities, because they will hurt people. Anybody who's read books on nuclear war and who can start it, don't think that a theocracy full of people who want to destroy Israel and who see the United States is evil, that they won't deport terrorism all over the world, that they are the most dangerous regime and they need to be taken care of now instead of after they achieve nuclear arms.
Congressman, one of the things that stood out to me was the president today. He posted this, basically talking about an Iran deal, or at least how Iran should come to the table and take a deal. And he said this: I told them it would be much worse than anything that they know, anticipated, or were told, that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come, and they know how to use it. How do you believe, or what do you make of the president sort of leaning into this tonight in sort of this fashion and in this manner?
Strength, understanding that they have one choice. Don't become a nuclear armed nation, that nobody trusts them. Nobody wants them to have nuclear arms, and we'll do anything that's on the table to take them away from that, whether it be economic, militarily. We'll isolate them. We'll make sure that they don't have that capability, because it can literally be the start of the end of the world. I don't trust Iran. If they fire upon Israel with nuclear weapons, don't think that they won't fire on us also. If they're that crazy that they would start a nuclear war, they can start with anybody.
What do you mean by a start to the end of the world? I hear you there on nuclear weapons, but there is a range and there is a limit. What is the reality as you see it with Iran?
So first of all, they've been exporting their drones all over the world already against our friends. Georgia Guardsmen that died because of drones produced in Iran. I've said multiple times that if you fire on our ships with Iranian weapons, then we should take out your Navy. We should take out your production of those facilities that produce weapons against the United States of America. And I've been very strong on this, very consistent on this. Now, if you're going to produce nuclear arms, and you've been literally saying we're going to produce nuclear face of the earth, and that Israel's a little Satan, the United States is a big Satan, that leaves us with one alternative. We will deny you nuclear capability, even if that means extreme violence on those facilities. Nothing's off the table, because this is a matter of existence, not only for Israel, but for the United States and really all of mankind.
Congressman, do you think a deal is possible? The president has, views himself as sort of the ultimate deal maker, and today basically said time was up. 60 days, I warned you, and the Israelis didn't wait much more than a few seconds past the 60 days and went forward with the attacks on the generals there and the nuclear sites.
Well, how
Do
many
you think
times
a
we've
deal?
negotiated with these guys in the past? Look at what Obama
Well, that's
did.
why I wonder if you think a deal's possible. Yeah.
Well, there's a deal possible. The question is, will they stick to it? They've shown over and over again when we made a deal with them last time, gave them piles of cash not to do what they're supposed to, what they continue to pursue, which is uranium enrichment. They continue to do it, and centrifuges had to be destroyed. We were able to do it through cyber abilities last time, but now we can't do that anymore. They hardened the target, so now it comes down to one other alternative. You won't come to the table. You keep on stalling. You're not executing this in good faith. Therefore, there's one option left on the table. We can't wait until they have a nuclear arm, till they're a peer. We can't wait, because then it's too late.
Congressman Rich McCormick, I thank you for working through it with me there on the audio issues. It was mine, not yours, sir, with us tonight here on the Hill. Appreciate it. We'll talk again soon. Thank you, sir. Joining me now in studio. Yes, Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Hello to you both. Thanks for being here this evening on what has turned into a really consequential last 22 hours, I think, at some point. Julia, let's look here at what's at stake in the Middle East and what's at stake for the United States. You just heard the congressman, in his view, lay some of it out. In the Middle East, as we watch all of this unfold tonight with live images in Israel, what's at stake for that nation and for that region?
Well, I think for the region, the order in which we understand that region, with Israel, quite frankly, being on the defense, but from Iran and its proxies in the region, that could be flipped depending on what happens, in this scenario. And if you see Iran continue these retaliatory strikes against Israel, Israel will continue to be put on the defense. But, I think from a Washington perspective, from the United States perspective, this is obviously coming as President Trump has been trying to hash out this nuclear deal with Iran. His Truth Social post earlier today was quite interesting because he said, look, you have to make a deal now or you're going to face lethal consequences.
Yep. And their weapons are our weapons, and they're better than yours.
Absolutely. And it came shortly after President Trump said he warned Benjamin Netanyahu not to do any, action or moves against Iran that could put a deal in jeopardy.
1:12 in Tel Aviv this evening. Chris, what's at stake there for Israel this evening in the region as well?
Well, the last time we were here on this matter, we saw something we had never seen before, which was the Gulf states, the Sunni Arab states, coming to Israel's defense as Iran tried to attack it. Now, that was Iran in reprisal for the Israelis having taken out. Oh, go ahead.
No, keep. So the reason why we just took that video full, Chris, is because you saw some flares there. There are new reports out at this moment that Iran has launched more missiles at Israel, that you could see there at the bottom of the screen. It seemed as if the Golden Dome was fired up and working there, so we keep our eyes on Tel Aviv, Chris, of course.
The previous Iranian effort in this way was a total failure, right? It was a total failure. It was an absolute bust. And not only was it a total failure, it revealed that the Gulf Arab states would align with Israel against Iran. And that speaks to Iran's problem, is they're totally isolated. They have friends in China, and they have friends in Russia. But Russia's pretty busy right now, and China seems unlikely to intervene on its behalf. The idea that Iran is militarily potent enough to be a credible existential threat to Israel or to mount a ground war against Israel is given light here by the insufficiency of their air.
So this is the threat at the moment. Again, it is 1:13, rather, excuse me, in Tel Aviv this evening, and you can see there over the skies of Tel Aviv, and I couldn't hear her there. I thought I might have heard siren. Yep, let's listen full real quick. Our coverage continues here on NewsNation as Iran has launched more missiles at Israel. 1:14 in the morning there, and you could clearly see and clearly hear some of those missiles, or at least one, I should say, breaking through and striking in Tel Aviv. We had seen a similar scene earlier in the day that appeared to hit that did hit a residential complex. There are reports of casualties on the ground there in Israel. Again, this is the response from Iran after Israel went after and targeted successfully the top military leadership in Iran, the top general there, and the number 2 and number 3, essentially, was able to take out several of that country's nuclear scientists and went after as well several of the nuclear facilities there in Iran. The President of the United States gave essentially a 60-day window to try to strike some deal with the Iranians. And yesterday was day 60, and that, Chris, has led us to this moment here as we continue our live coverage here on NewsNation.
Certainly, Benjamin Netanyahu, who was also facing a split in his coalition government in Israel, was running out of time. And the Israelis were running out of patience with an idea that the Trump administration was somehow going to forge a deal with an a recalcitrant Iranian government, and that somehow this was all going to work out. The lesson for Netanyahu from what's going on in Ukraine, and the lesson for a lot of U.S. allies, is you can't wait around. You're going to have to do what you need to do. And when you saw the drone attack that the Israelis, the fact that their attack on Iran included an audacious drone strike launched from within Iran, it reminded us all of what we saw in Ukraine. And I think what you're seeing right now is a remaking of a world order in which countries sort of go off on their own hook. The United States and Israel are very close allies, but this looks like this is an Israeli initiative much more than it is any agreed plan between the two powers.
Julia, as we keep our eyes on Tel Aviv this evening, and it appears as if you can see some of that smoke there in the background, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, has been, or at least we know at one point today, and one would presume well beyond that, in the Situation Room with his national security team. The White House only put up one image today. Normally they'll, not normally, but in some cases they'll sort of put out an image of the president working in the Situation Room. One image of the Commander-in-Chief today. He was looking at the camera, serious, focused, and this is what is before him this evening.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I mean, like Chris said, we are seeing a rearrangement, I think, in many ways of the world order, of, you know, what's happening, the order in the Middle East, as I said before. But, you know, it's interesting to compare that to, and I don't want to say compare it to, but sort of bring it back to President Trump's Republican Party and how the Republican Party has influenced a lot of this, or President Trump, I should say, has influenced a lot of this. The Republican Party is split in many ways. You know, you have your isolationists, and then you have your neocons, you know, hawkish, you know, national security buffs, if you will. President Trump has taken arguably a more isolationist approach at times during his administration, but he still has a lot of these more hawkish figures around him, like Secretary of State Marco Rubio. But because we've seen this inching towards isolationism, this inching towards America going out on its own, to Chris's point, this is why in many ways we're seeing countries like Israel, like Ukraine, essentially doing what they believe is in their best interest.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. It is 6:18 here in Washington, 1:18 in Israel this evening, in the morning. We're going to take a quick break, keep these images up. It is still, as if you've been watching us here over the last handful of minutes, you can see a very fluid, a very active, and a very serious situation inside Israel tonight and across the Middle East this evening as well. I'm Blake Burman. You're watching The Hill. Our coverage continues here on NewsNation in 4 minutes. Stay with us. All right, our coverage continues here on NewsNation. I'm Blake Burman. Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. We just saw another round of attacks against Israel as it is 1:23 in the morning in Tel Aviv. With me now is the former Israeli envoy for combating anti-Semitism, Noah Tishby. She's appeared here on The Hill many times before. Noah, thanks for joining us tonight. We're a little short on time here, given we were just witnessing what happened there, but I wonder how you believe that Israel is going to respond in this moment with what we just witnessed.
Well, Thank you so much. So this is the third wave of missiles that is launched at Israel in retaliation to the severe attack that Israel initiated yesterday. Now, we need to remember Iran is the head of the snake. Iran has been threatening Israel for decades. Iran has been calling for the destruction of Israel for decades. More so, Iran has been sponsoring the proxies in the region, and Iran is behind every single bloody conflict in the Middle East. And what they used to do, which was very convenient, they used to hit U.S. targets, U.S. allied targets, Israeli targets, and say, it's not us, it's our proxies. So that war that used to be behind the scenes is now out in the open. Israel has had enough. The IAEA, the United Nations Atomic Watchdog, indicated that Iran has been lying to the world, basically rushing to a bomb and rushing to weaponize a bomb. And right now, currently, has the capability of up to 15 atomic bombs very quickly. And Israel, rightfully so, decided that neither Israel nor the world nor the Middle East can live with a nuclear Iran and had to take them out. Here's the other thing to remember. This is a very clear message that the Israeli government is sending out, and all of us, Israeli public, that this is not a war between Israel and the Iranian people. This is a war between the state of Israel and the force that is occupying the Persian people, the Iranian people, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran.
What worries do you have, Noah, that message may not get conveyed here in the United States, though?
It's a good question. Look, over 60% of Iranians do not support the regime. We've seen what happened with the Masa Amini demonstrations, with the women liberations. They are crushing every single voice within their own country that wants liberties as we know and love here in America and in Israel. So a regime that can oppress their own people so badly is definitely not going to be nicer in the region. In Iran, I cannot walk around just like this, with my hair out. It's an oppressive, jihadi, Islamist regime that is interested in creating a Shia crescent around the world. That is their intention. They are the true expansionist, the true imperialist force in the Middle East, and everybody in the Middle East knows this. When you look at the Middle East, you understand that not just Israel is not the big bad wolf. Israel is a force for good in the region, and Iran is the force that must need to stop. We tried, U.S. tried, we tried to do it without attacking, and I guess we just couldn't wait any longer.
Noah Tishby, I have no doubt we will be talking to you more in the coming days. I thank you for hopping on with us here for a brief moment. Noah Tishby with us tonight here on the Hill. Noah, we'll talk again soon. Our coverage continues here on NewsNation. So one of the things we wanted to show you tonight as we continue to keep our eyes on the Middle East, this is not just a story about Israel and Iran, though, of course, that is very much in the focus tonight. There are also tens of thousands of U.S. service members in the region, American troops, and we know that Americans are helping Israel at this point in time. Our U.S. military is. On the other side of the break, I'm going to show you where those troops are and the threat that they are in this evening and in the many days to come as America comes to the side of its greatest ally in the region. Stay with us.
It's 9 today.
Our coverage continues here on NewsNation and on the Hill, 6:30 here in Washington, 1:30 over Tel Aviv, and a live look as we just saw another wave of Iranian missiles about 15 minutes ago over the skies there of Tel Aviv. Iran launching its counterattack after Israel took out several of its top military leaders, really the top military leader, and then the next two. Many of the top nuclear scientists as well, also targeting nuclear facilities in several successful strikes. The IDF says fewer than 100 missiles were fired into Israel, at least in the first wave, and that most were intercepted by the Iron Dome in the first wave, but the attacks have continued. The U.S. is also helping shoot down Iranian missiles, U.S. officials tell NewsNation. More than 40 people have been injured, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says, quote, more is on the way to Iran. Our Kelly Meyer has the very latest live for us here in Washington on the North Lawn. Kelly?
Yeah, hey there, Blake. So President Donald Trump had said that the U.S. would defend itself and Israel if Iran were to retaliate. And that is what you're seeing. You touched on it there, that the U.S. is assisting and shooting down missiles that are heading towards Israel. We know that the U.S. ground U.S.-based air defense systems. We're told they are helping with that. And a U.S. official telling me tonight that the hundreds of thousands of Americans that live in Israel and that there are U.S. military assets in Israel that we need to protect, they tell me. Now, it's unclear how many missiles the U.S. has taken down, but they told me that the Israeli air defense systems are taking down most of those. The U.S. is supporting by the land and sea. The U.S. also shifting military assets in the Middle East. The Navy destroyer sailing toward the eastern Mediterranean. Another is at the ready. This is something that was likely brought up in that Situation Room meeting today with President Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, Blake, they did just call a lid, what they call it here at the White House. Generally means we won't see or hear from the president again today. But I did just see the Marine sentry there outside the West Wing, so he is still in there. He's been making a lot of phone calls there today, Blake.
Our Kelly Meyer, live for us, live on the North Lawn. Kelly, thank you. With me now to break down the presence, the military presence in the region, retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. Sir, good evening.
Blake, good evening as well.
We first talked at 6 in the morning today.
It's been a long day.
It has, and for, you know, the reasons of what we have witnessed in the Middle East. All right, there are more than, give or take, 40,000 U.S. military personnel in the region, right? So this is Iran, okay? And all the other countries that we've highlighted are where those personnel are either by the hundreds or by the thousands, John.
Blake, a little bit of scale. It's about 1,000 miles from Israel to Iran, so the distances here are big. And what is not shown here are those two carrier strike groups that are somewhere in the vicinity, as well as over-the-horizon bombers, either from the United States or from the Indian Ocean, that could strike if needed and add military capability to the mix here.
So this is where our troops are stationed, or at least where there's a military presence, right? This is what the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, put out today as it relates to what Iran could potentially do in the region. This is the range of Iran's missiles, and it goes well beyond where our troops are stationed. And that was part of the reason, I believe, that some of the non-essential personnel were pulled out of some of these countries.
It is, and Blake, the State Department directed embassies in North Africa, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe within these rings over the last few days to prepare for emergency in case something like this would happen and those ballistic missiles would be targeted against those diplomatic facilities.
We show the live picture, if we can, real quick, of Tel Aviv, because we've been keeping our eyes over the skies of Israel. And one of the things that we have learned is that U.S. personnel, military personnel, have been assisting in trying to shoot down these Iranian missiles. The assets in the region, generally speaking, to keep these skies in part as clear as possible are what? Basically, what do we have in the region there?
Blake, we used fighter aircraft earlier in the day to take out some of those drones that were inbound to Israel, U.S. fighter aircraft. And then we have destroyers on sea and then theater air defense capabilities in Israel on the ground that can help with those ballistic missile volleys that we've seen now 3 waves of over the course of the last several hours.
With our presence there in the Middle East, what do you think we end up seeing next here in the upcoming few hours or so?
Blake, Israel is intent on continuing the fight to strike those targets in Iran that include nuclear facilities, ballistic missile facilities, and some of those leadership targets. They'll assess how those strikes are going, and then they'll continue them while they protect themselves against ballistic missile and drone attacks like we've seen over the course of this day.
Brigadier General John Teichert, retired, with us here on NewsNation throughout the day. We appreciate the expertise and the time.
Thanks, Blake.
Talk to you again soon. All right, still to come here on the Hill. The moment before the Commander-in-Chief, you just heard from Kelly, right? The President. And this is the one image that they have put out all day. This right here. What is before the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, tonight on the other side of the break?
Join NewsNation as America celebrates 250 years of the United States Army. We're live from Washington, D.C. for a packed night of coverage. NewsNation's Leland Vittert and Anna Koyman host Tribute to America, Saturday, 6/5 Central.
Management.
Just some of the scenes in Israel this evening within the last few hours, as Israel now is under attack after taking out some of Iran's top military leaders. its top nuclear scientists and several of its top nuclear facilities as well. The images coming out of Tel Aviv under fire from Iran, rather. A reminder that it was on April 12th, excuse me, that President Trump in Oman issued a warning to Iran regarding coming to a consensus on a new nuclear deal. The president even specified that the failure to reach a deal within 60 days could result in military strikes on that nation. Fast forward, no such deal was reached. And then 60 days right there, Israel strikes. Iran responds by launching ballistic missiles at Israel. According to President Trump, Iran has the option to stop the bleeding. The president posting in part, quote, Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction, just do it before it is too late. Just part of what the president has before him this evening with the Middle East front and center. With me now, full panel, Dr. Corte, professor at Pepperdine University. Julia Manchester back with me. She is, of course, the national political reporter for The Hill. Chris STIREWALT, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Aaron McGuire is a Republican strategist. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. Aaron, I'll start with you. You know Donald Trump fairly well. Tonight, he's at the White House with his national security team, taking on this issue front and center. What is before him as the commander-in-chief as you see it this evening?
I think the good news for the American people and for the globe more largely is that the president is putting out in real time where he stands on this. He has been putting out information. He's been putting out his Truth Social posts, and it's clear what he wants. He wants this to end immediately. He wants Israel to be able to defend itself, but he wants Iran to come to the table, get these negotiations done. And that's the difference here. Israel is defending itself using targeted attacks on Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran is bombing in neighborhoods in Tel Aviv tonight.
I'll use your word wants. There are some within the Republican Party, or at least within those who back the president, part of his base, who do not want this because it is war. How does he handle that?
He's going to handle it by trying to end the conflict as quickly as possible. He's been clear, whether it's Israel, whether it's the war with Gaza, whether it's Ukraine, that he does not want further escalatory measures by anybody. But he fully supports Israel's sovereignty and their ability to defend themselves, especially given that there was a very clear timetable set to this. And he said at day 61, we delivered what we said. They delivered what they said they would happen. This means business. It means they're serious, and the president is taking it seriously. But that does not mean he wants global conflict to continue.
Look, the queue is piling up. There are a number of conflicts around the world that the president has in his queue, whether we're talking about Russia-Ukraine, or we're talking about Israel-Gaza, and now Israel-Iran. There's a lot for the president to be able to zero in on. There's a lot for him to rally the world around. But this is a president that has embraced an isolationist policy. And so, you know, this is a president that, remember, just earlier this week called Benjamin Netanyahu, the Atlantic reported on this, called Benjamin Netanyahu and said, hold off on any strikes. I think a deal may still be possible.
Well, do you give him credit, though, for, you know, he told Iran 60 days basically to the second. So for all what he may or may not have said behind closed doors, at the end of the day, Israel sort of got to do what it wanted to do.
Well, the president also told TikTok, you know, they had 75 days, and he extended that as well. And so the president has demonstrated an ability to move the timetable if he feels that there is enough progress that's being made. And so, you know, this is a bit of a mess. It's another mess. The question is, what will the president do to help clean it up?
It's a defining moment, I think, in terms of foreign policy very early on in his second administration. I am curious, though, when we look at where the Republican Party is on foreign policy, sort of which direction President Trump goes in. I mean, he has Secretary of State Marco Rubio, someone who is known to be very much a hawk, not an isolationist. But we know that Vice President J.D. Vance may swing to the other side of that. So I think, you know, those around him will be trying to influence him in the coming days. Ultimately, he's the one who has to make the call.
Chris, the reality is this is what Israel is dealing with and what the United States as well is dealing with. The Ayatollah, today we must give a strong response to the evil, despicable terrorist Zionist identity. God willing, we will respond with strength and will show no mercy to them. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism.
Well, yeah, and there are U.S. troops, as you said.
Yeah.
all over the region, and it would be very much in keeping with their previous conduct to target other U.S. installations to try to show some strength, because this has been a terrible run for Iran. The decision of Hamas to ally itself with Iran and to alienate itself from its typical patrons in the Sunni Arab, among the Gulf Arab states, this is what you see, right? The consequence is that the events that were put into motion on October 7th with that attack on Israel, it's playing out even now. And Iran's decision to play that game through Hezbollah and in Israel, now you see it. And the region is in some ways wholly different than it was 8 years ago in how the countries are allied, where the fault lines are, and all of that stuff. Iran finds itself extraordinarily isolated and in a very different place with fewer friends than it has really any time in decades.
So the president has been not before the cameras today, and you can say rightfully so, right? He's got more important things to deal with. The White House did put out one image today, and normally when the president meets in the Situation Room during a big event, I shouldn't say normally, it happens frequently. The White House will release an image to basically show the commander-in-chief, here they are, this is who they're with, this is what they're doing. And Aaron, this was the picture that one of the president's senior advisors put out today. It's the one-time image we've seen of the commander-in-chief. So around the table I want to go. I'll start with you. What do you see here with Donald Trump?
He looks focused, he looks serious, and he looks a little bit annoyed as well. I got to tell you, that looks like a guy who's not in the best of moods, but who can blame him with serious news like this?
What do you see there?
I see a president that is trying very hard to project strength to our fellow Americans and to project strength to the world right now. I mean, tomorrow's events here in Washington, D.C. are certainly consistent with what I think the folks who took that image are trying to project. There will be a military parade here in Washington, D.C., commemorating the anniversary of the U.S. Army, but also in alignment with the president's 79th birthday. 79, as in almost 80, as in now one of the oldest presidents to ever serve, really trying to project that he is in control, and that he is strong and powerful.
What do you see there?
You know, I think annoyed definitely, captures it in many ways. I think the president was hoping to walk into this weekend being able to have this, big spectacle of a parade to project strength. I think in many ways it still is an opportunity for him to project strength, particularly as, things move on with Israel and Iran. But, I think he was looking to walk into this week, I don't want to say without as much on his plate, but not in this situation.
He's alone. He's alone with pictures of himself. What you normally see from a White House in a situation like this is he's on the phone. You'd have a picture of him on the phone or in a meeting or bringing people together or doing this stuff. It's always Trump and Trump alone. And that's, I think, the way he likes it.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you all. Appreciate it for being with us on a Friday evening and on a big night as the events unfold in the Middle East. Live pictures from Tel Aviv. It was about 38 minutes ago where we saw the latest round of those missiles, the latest wave from Iran strike inside Tel Aviv. Israel has been hitting back as well throughout the day. Our coverage continues live on the other side of the break. 8 minutes away until Elizabeth Vargas reports, but we return here on the Hill. Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. I'm Blake Burman, joined by Chris Stirewalt. This on a Friday evening is normally when we bring you the most powerful images of the week. And I wanted to, Chris, sort of end on just what we've seen here in the last 24 hours or so. It but last night about 8 Eastern, somewhere around there, 7:30 Eastern, we learned of this strike from Israel on Iran going after the nuclear facilities, the nuclear scientists, show the image if we can, the nuclear facilities, the nuclear scientists, and the 3 top generals. And this was sort of when we learned, okay, Israel has gone after Iran and it's about to start.
Yeah, and once the International Atomic Energy folks had said Iran is definitely in violation.
Right.
What I won't say what choice did Israel have, but under the political rubric under which Benjamin Netanyahu is operating, what are you going to do? You have the United States is in negotiations with Iran, trying to move to some sort of a deal that would be bad for Israel. You have a finding from non-partial agency that says Iran is doing what you've accused them of doing.
Right.
And so they went.
And once this happened, we knew, and Israel knew, that the next was inevitable, which was Iran's response and what that would look like. And it was about 6:10 here on the East Coast, so about 45 minutes ago that we saw the latest wave. But this was the first wave of missiles, Chris, and it hits a building there, and there are reported casualties on the ground in Israel.
Israel has made a choice that in the wake of the October 7th attacks, that they're going to dismantle. We saw what they did to Hezbollah. We saw the previous attacks. We saw the pager bombing. Right. We've seen again and again and again. And what Israel is saying is, this is it. We're doing it. They've managed to make peace essentially with the Sunni Arab states on their side of the Gulf. Iran is the remaining problem for Israel, and they're going to suffer what it takes to resolve that issue too.
And this is an image that just sort of not encapsulates the region, but this shows you the airline traffic there and how everyone's steering clear.
Yeah, and you also see that Iran is in a very important neighborhood.
Yes.
Along the Red Sea. They're oil producers themselves, but they're there along the Gulf, and they have their Houthi allies down there at the bottom of the Arabian Peninsula. And they have, if they want to, this is something that they've done in the past, they can spike world energy prices by disrupting shipping lanes, cutting back on their own supplies. So that could be a consequence here too.
Chris has the best Sunday show in the business, 10 a.m. Eastern here on News Nation. You'll be speaking with the former Vice President, Mike Pence. So I hope you tune in to Chris's show Sunday
morning.
Well,
you ruined them. They had you last week. What do they want to deal with me for? You filled in for me last week.
Chris
so
is
what's
back,
left?
thank goodness. I hope you have an excellent